Mortal Kombat 11 has been in the wild for a few months now, and gamers have gotten a chance to explore every nook and cranny to know what's what. We've had lots of time to find out which gear is the best for each fighter, what we dislike about the microtransactions, and which stages we like to throw down in. We've also got to know each character like the back of our severed hands, and as such, it's time we take a hard look at the roster to make some serious judgments. While Mortal Kombat 11 is arguably the best pure gameplay experience in the entire series, it's not without its faults. In fact, the roster itself is a little wonky, with various patches affecting the most minuscule of elements, at least keeping debates raging amongst those who think the best and worst fighters are both Scorpion. Some are pure bliss to play with and feel perfectly balanced, whereas others are best avoided at all costs. I'm Scott from WhatCulture.com, and this is Mortal Kombat 11, 10 Worst Fighters You Must Avoid. And also, before I go any further, the following entries are compiled from a number of sources and reference points across the entire Mortal Kombat 11 fandom. Please do not decapitate the messenger. Number 10, Baraka. It is with a heavy heart that Baraka makes this list. Everybody's favorite Blades for Arms Hellspawn made his big return in Mortal Kombat 11, and it's fair to say fans were very excited. Baraka is, or at least should be, the epitome of what makes Mortal Kombat fun to play. Fast, violent, gory, and disgusting as hell gameplay. Yet, Baraka in MK11 just felt a little samey. His moveset was largely similar to previous games in the franchise, and he just wasn't that exciting. NetherRealm has done an incredible job of continually reinventing its series, and part of that is taking characters away, bringing others back, and introducing new ones. However, a game away didn't seem to do that much to Baraka. He's slow, his moves are uninspired, and his potential for racking up a huge combo is pretty low. Yes, he still has cool blades and they do good damage, but ultimately this was a straightforward return to form. Considering the fan love for the character and his over-the-top design though, it's disappointing how basic this comeback was. Baraka deserved so much more, and so did we. Number 9, Cassie Cage. Cassie Cage is a really fun character. She's the love child of Johnny Cage and Sonya Blade, and a perfect amalgamation of the two. Her moveset consists of lots of hand-to-hand combat and the use of weapons and gadgets. Combining together her powerful kicks with guns and drones is certainly fun, but it's all too similar to that of MK10. One of the biggest problems with Cassie, however, is that she doesn't really have a moveset of her own. In any given situation, she just adopts her mother or father's signature set of attacks with the occasional drone extension. Now, Cassie Cage is totally one of the most popular characters in the game, particularly her Yas Queen variant, but the reason is because she's a little overpowered. Cassie has immense potential for high damage combos, her kneecap shot is infuriating to play against, and she's a general Jill of all trades. Some may enjoy that, but it's not exactly fun to play against. Number 8, Jade. Jade's return to Mortal Kombat was a highly anticipated one. With a fresh redesign, she certainly looks the part, and a bigger role in the story means that this was a successful comeback, albeit not without some hiccups. Because despite being killed, Jade returned in MK11 as a Revenant, and her outfit is the best she's ever had. She also plays a significant role in the story this time around, as we learned that she'd been Kotal Kahn's lover for some time. However, it's in the arenas where Jade's star power begins to dim. If you get an experienced player, they can make Jade look like a badass who is fun as hell to play with. Give the controller to a more casual player though, and it's a different story altogether. Jade has poor mix-ups, difficulty racking up combos, big cooldowns on her best moves, and her shuriken ranged attacks are literally just batarangs lifted from Injustice 2. While it's definitely cool to see Jade make a comeback, and she's a solid choice for hardcore fans, to the more casual player, it'll feel like all that inspiration went into designing her outfit and not her moveset. Number 7, Jackie Briggs. Jackie Briggs is a very similar character to Cassie Cage, but where Cassie is fast, Jackie is slower and more powerful. And make no mistake about it, Jackie Briggs is a very powerful character. She can be really good to use for adept players who can close the distance and rack up a big combo of devastating hits. She just isn't that much use in other ways, however, because she doesn't have much in the way of projectiles or long-distance abilities. NetherRealm have been really pushing the combat kids across the last couple of games, trying to make them series regulars. However, fans just aren't really taking to the whole idea. Jackie could have been a more popular character if Jax wasn't in the game. If that was the case though, NetherRealm would need to improve her moveset and make her a more compelling character overall. Unlike her friend Cassie Cage, Jackie is just kinda boring. Why play as her when you could play as her father or Cassie herself? She's not a lost cause though, just in need of some drastic improvements going forward. Number 6, Frost. Always a tricky character for NetherRealm to get right, the studio missed the mark yet again with Frost in Mortal Kombat 11. For the latest iteration of Mortal Kombat, the sick minds over at NetherRealm gave Frost a vastly improved look and made her one of the coolest looking characters on the roster, pun intended. And yet she still feels like a knockoff Sub-Zero. While she can be a fun character for noobs to play around with, particularly with her easy combos and brutalities and fatalities, it's the weaknesses that drag Frost down into the icy depths. Because where to even begin? She has all sorts of serious blind spots that make her one of the lesser characters on a great roster. Arguably, the biggest problem with Frost is how slow her projectile recovery time is, meaning that if you miss, you're forced to wait a hot minute. She's a solid character for keeping enemies at distance, but if they can teleport, they're going to get in close and do some serious damage. Frost isn't a bad character, especially for casual MK fans, but for anyone looking to play competitively, you're gonna want to steer clear of this particular Ice Warrior. Number 5, Shao Kahn. Let's get one thing straight. Shao Kahn is a Mortal Kombat legend. The big bad villain has been around since day 2, and he's one of the most instantly recognizable characters on the entire roster. So why then has NetherRealm been doing him dirty? Shao Kahn has rarely ever been playable in Mortal Kombat games, as is usually the case with big villains, so this was an opportunity to give him the shine he deserved after all those years. And yet, NetherRealm made him a pre-order bonus, and his actual fighting abilities leave a lot to be desired. Now, most MK fans will tell you that Shao Kahn is a giant pain in the behind anyway, and that's because his boss fights always felt unfair and very rage-inducing. And, well, playing as him doesn't exactly feel much better. He can deal huge amounts of damage, but you can block the majority of his attacks, he has poor range, and very little way to diversify his offense. He's a very good heavy hitter for a noob, but experienced players won't touch this guy whatsoever. Number 4, Kano. Kano is a mainstay of the Mortal Kombat series, having appeared in almost every entry across the past 2 decades. Strange then that NetherRealm managed to screw him up so badly in Mortal Kombat 11. Of course, as far as the story is concerned, Kano is still his usual despicable self, albeit while not actually mattering that much in regards to the overall plot. However, his fighting capabilities seem to have been downgraded since MK10, and what we're left with is dull as hell. Kano's moveset in MK11 is arguably the most uninspired of the entire roster. It's the same old rigmarole of laser eyes, knife attacks, and cannonball rushes. He doesn't have great damage nor great speed, making him a completely run-of-the-mill character that few are likely to start with. Kano's stagnation is all the more noticeable when characters like Johnny Cage, Sub-Zero, Sonya Blade, and Liu Kang age like a fine wine. It may be time to drop Kano off the roster for a few years and give the love to someone else. Number 3, Kotal Kahn. Kotal Kahn is by far one of the coolest new characters the series has had in some time. In fact, MK10 introduced a few great new characters, and Kotal Kahn was right up there. However, his sophomore outing has wound up being entirely forgettable at best. Kotal Kahn's role in the story has been lessened this time around, seeming to be little more than a way to fill in a few narrative gaps. However, his fighting abilities are largely unchanged, and the things that have changed are for the worse. The problems here largely center around sacrifices that he has to make in order to perform his cooler, more useful moves. For example, to use a totem like the Sunlight Beam, you have to forget about using any offense and open yourself up to attacks. He's slow, bad against teleporters, and offers little in the way of fun, gory attacks. Lots of the lesser characters in MK11 get a pass because their moves are at least kinda disgusting and it fits in with the whole signature style, but Khan's are just bland. Somehow he's ended up as the worst of all the Khans. And yes, casual fans, I'm including Kotal Kahn. Number 2, Satriani. Satriani is arguably the most disappointing character in MK11 overall. As a character oozing potential, she wound up feeling like a knockoff from an Injustice game. Satriani is one of the new Elder God characters, and as such, she can use water, earth, wind, and fire to attack her opponents. It all sounds pretty cool, right? Sounds like she should be a super easy fighter to design and one of the most fun to play as. However, the reality is that Satriani doesn't excel at anything, and she feels like a complete misfit for the Mortal Kombat series. While Garrus is a total blast and one of the absolute best fighters in the game, Satriani is pretty much the opposite. She has decent range abilities, but once you learn her patterns, she's very easy to beat. She's also too difficult and random to master, and nowhere near good enough to just pick up and play. Satriani is the very definition of a jack of all trades and a master of none, and that makes her one of the worst fighters in MK11. But still, she doesn't take the top spot. Number 1, Devorah. This kinda hurts. While Devorah was one of the most fun characters in MK10 for both newcomers and hardcore fans, she's been railroaded in Mortal Kombat 11 and subsequently become the one character to avoid at all costs. Because Devorah was just so effortlessly cool back in MK10. Everything from her look to her voice actress, her specials to her fatality, it just screamed in the best way possible. And yet for her second outing, which also ended up being the case for a ton of the newer fighters, she just fell into a big ol' spiked pit. Her setups take forever and the payoffs aren't even worth it, as Devorah may be fast but she has some of the lowest damage attacks in the entire game. She's easily blocked, easily avoided, and easily defeated. You won't catch a single pro player playing as Devorah, and that makes for a big change versus the last time. What really sucks about Devorah in MK11 though is that she wasn't quite this bad before the first patch for the game, and with that patch she was nerfed and totally ruined. Maybe in MK12 she'll make a glorious return, but for now she's the top of our list. And with all that stuff in mind, you can let me know down in the comments below what the worst fighter in MK11 is. I know you've got a whole bunch of opinions and you might not agree with the ones that I've picked, but hey, it's over to you. For now, I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com and I'll catch you soon.